Limitations of the panel testing include the fact that even when we do extensive testing, we still don't have an ability to test for every possible gene that might affect cancer risk. So it's not possible for someone to go in the process and say, well, I've had this test, nothing came out of it, therefore we have ruled out all possibility of any sort of inherited risk for cancer. It's just sometimes you take your best shot. You try to look and see, can we find something? Sometimes we can, sometimes we can't. And so when there's no one with detectable genetic risk in the family who's had cancer, then we call those uninformative negatives, and we just have to follow people based on the family history. So it's possible to put yourself out there for a test and end up at the end of the day with no further information than when we started. Some of the potential perils of genetic testing include the fact that there are some large panels available by different commercial labs that include genes for which we have very little information about what they mean. So, for example, we could tell someone, you have a mutation in this particular gene, but we're not sure what the complete list of associated cancers may be. Maybe pancreatic cancer risk is increased, maybe it isn't. Maybe ovarian cancer risk is increased, maybe it isn't. And then we also cannot tell people for some of these genes what the magnitude of risk is. Now, in contrast to some of the well-described genes, again referring back to BRCA, we can tell people here is the magnitude of risk, here are the list of associated cancers, here are the national guidelines for what to do in the event someone has a mutation. Whereas if we find a gene mutation in some of these panel genes for which there's very little data, very little experience, very little knowledge, you could come out of this testing process with, in some ways, more uncertainty than when you started.